Hello and welcome to a podcast with the Garden State Film Festival. We're here at Bell Works at a shared universe, and we cannot thank you enough. There's somebody on the door. Hey, guys. So we're here today. I'm Lauren Concar Sheehy, the executive director of the Garden State Film Festival. To my right is Brian Sheehy, who's a board member of the Garden State Film Festival. And our spectacular guest today is Peter Normandia, who is a filmmaker and also owner of Edit Cellar. Pete has a couple of films in the Garden State Film Festival, which, by the way, is March 23rd to the 28th, 2021. We kick it off at the Cranford Theater in Cranford, New Jersey. And then on March 23rd and then the 24th to the 28th, we're in Asbury Park. 4 live in-person venues, but the rest, everything is online, everything is virtual. So don't cry, don't worry. You don't have to be in person. You're not going to miss out. You can still stay home in the comfort of your own pajamas, no masks, you're in comfortable of your own home, and watch all of the films for only $55 for a multi-pass. You can watch all of the films. So, Pete, let's talk about Reclaimed Relics. Tell us.
Jay Chaikin.
Yeah, so tell us all about, how did you meet Jay? How did this project come to be?
So, actually, this is from a colleague of ours, Mitch Martinez, who lives in PA and actually happened to rent space out from Jay. Mitch was busy with other projects and had something going on and knew it was a little bit more up my alley. So I went out there to meet this character, and one thing led to another. And it was kind of just follow him around at first and kind of see what he does. And Jay's a very entertaining individual, and that is just natural. It's not something that's like when the camera turns on, he's just an entertaining guy, which is kind of cool to meet and stuff like that. But once you kind of get past that, you start to see some of the magic and some of the things this guy knows and some of the things he sees that we don't see with our eyes, which like blew my mind, And then you're starting to see this stuff and through his eyes, and you're like, wow, like, this is unbelievable, It's a whole new world, especially for somebody like me.
It's really cool. I love the historic part. You're going to love it. He hasn't seen it yet. So let's describe a little bit more about it for those that are like, wow, I want to watch that on Saturday, March 27th at 2:45 to 4:45 p.m. Reclaimed Relics. So for
that was
this
a shameless
one,
plug.
yeah, buy your ticket today. Okay, so let's set the scene. Let's explain to everyone what the heck is Reclaimed Relics. What happens?
Reclaimed Relics is Jay's business, and Jay is a person who looks at old things, like old farmhouses and older license places that has a lot to do with history. He's very into Pennsylvania history. So one of the cool things about him is I love history, so I was learning all this awesome stuff about things that I never really knew about. So what he will do is, he was actually a former host on a Nat Geo show, and then he used to be paid to kind of go into buildings. So let's say you haven't been in a building in 40 or 50 years, they pay him to go in, and he'd give him like $1,500 and I can keep whatever's in there, and they're like, no problem. And this guy would go in there and make a lot of money out of the stuff he would find and fix up, or even materials. A lot of the materials they used back then were a lot better than the materials today. So there's a lot of stuff he finds from there that he repurposes. And that's what he's all about, is saving in the environment and repurposing things and tying it into history. So there's always an adventure, on what we're doing. Yeah.
Brian had a 17th century and 18th century Conover, your house there, was what century?
Yeah, it was a bit of history there. Well, a lot of the houses in our area in Monmouth County, and in general old houses, you had the original farmhouse. The original house was like around late 1700s, 1790. So my house was, the original part was 1790. And then as the family did well, if they did well and they grew their farm and they made more money, you see about usually 50 or 60 years later, they build a bigger annex to that original part. So 1790 was the original part, and 1850 was the bigger part of the house. And that's a pattern that you see quite a bit in Monmouth County.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's
so
cool.
So there was, you talked about reclamation.
Yes.
Like, I mean, these houses don't get torn down.
Right.
That people will actually just move them up, they'll upseat them and move them. It's and some of them, a couple of them, I believe, are landmarks, and they're protected. But
even with the paint, sometimes with the ones that are protected, and Benjamin Moore, I think it is, came out with the historic paint line.
Yes.
Specifically because a lot of them you have to keep it the same color. It has to go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even like some of the doors you had, I think that Jay would go wild for the stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean,
He was so into wood. That's what I learned the most about.
I love
I
it.
didn't know there was so many different kinds of wood and the
And it's
values and
different.
and the different types and what they're used for and stuff. Like we went to visit this cruise ship in Florida in another episode, and I sat on this chair that honestly, I mean, if it was me, I would have threw this thing out. I was like, oh, broken chair, whatever. And he's like, you know how much that is? And I was like, it looked like a little folding beach chair. And he was like, it's like $125 each. And I was like, what? So what are you talking about? Dude? This is like a broke down chair. He's like, that's teak.
Oh,
and I was like,
yeah.
what's teak? I had no idea what teak
Yeah.
wood was. And he was explaining why it's so valuable on the water because
Yeah.
it doesn't pick up the water and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh,
cool.
these are the things that a normal person like myself, well, obviously
You're
I'm not normal.
normal,
I'm not
sure.
my normal,
Let me
but people
call
with my
Joe.
perspective, it's a good one. People with my perspective don't see. Yeah. So that was what was really interesting was that because I didn't know any of that stuff. And he was actually telling me I think it was in one of these episodes about one of the farmhouses they took down.
Yeah.
And you were saying about how old those houses
Yeah.
are. Well, that wood is worth so much money.
Yeah.
It's insane.
They go crazy.
Yeah.
Like, there was
Yeah.
one house at the end of our street that somehow they were protecting it, and somehow it was allowed to be torn down. And it was like people went bananas, like just because that piece of history
It's
just got
history,
taken
yeah.
away.
Wow,
But
yeah.
there was a freak show. People, trying to get salvage what was left of the house
Yeah.
after it
This
was
is
torn
in
down.
Colts Neck.
I mean, the floorboards
I love
alone.
that.
They,
Like, even look at this.
you just don't make stuff
Yeah,
like
they
that.
don't make stuff
anymore.
like that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then,
I
the
mean-
molding. Like I remember one in my house. Like you want to get a carpenter like going. You show him the molding
Okay.
in houses like that. You're walking
Yeah.
like, oh my god! I'm
love
like,
that.
dude, what? He goes, the molding. I'm like, the molding.
I know. I love that too. And the
molding.
Polo Lounge or Club. What's on in Homedale? The Polo Club.
On
I can't wait for that to
537
open. The
and
molding
34.
in there is outstanding. It's not open yet, but it's similar.
Well,
Like Jay will go
yeah.
crazy. It's all custom and everything. But tell a little bit about. Sorry, my ADD is kicking in because I'm really excited because I know that you basically shot this by yourself, and that's one of the things I love about you as a filmmaker, but also as a producer, director, and editor. Like your vision and everything that you do and your capabilities and skills. I love that you can, even when you had to be on rollerblades for some of the rap videos and stuff like that. So let's just
Yeah.
talk about how, going into this project, the scope of it and how you're able to do it by yourself, but no one will know that watching it. Like,
Well,
I know how you work, but
yeah.
a stranger watching it is going to be like, what? No, he didn't do that.
Yeah, well, I did have a little bit of help on the first episode
Okay.
or two from Christian on shooting, but it's mostly more of a I like what I'm just not really smart, I like what I like to do, and I'm gonna do it, and if in the place where I'm at, I'm not always given that opportunity with the budget, and it meets what you want to do.
Yeah.
Some of the bigger budget things are awesome projects. Not necessarily what I might pick to do, but then some of the other ones come along where it's like, well, the budget's not there, but this is awesome. Like,
Yeah.
I really want to capture this and stuff. And you never know where anything goes today.
Right.
And one of the things you're finding out and you're starting to see now is because I think of YouTube and, all this other stuff that there's less a mark on, that doesn't look as, $100 million,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So I can't watch it. It's like we're used to watching all that stuff now. So people are a little bit more forgiving when they're watching something. So you can take a little bit more chances, and the equipment got better.
Yeah.
And because of this, I've kind of geared my equipment to be run by one or two people.
Right.
And that I think is the most important thing.
Which
you
I
know?
love. Yeah. That's
so
important.
you're limited in certain ways, but you know your limitations and you work through them.
But I feel like you really go beyond the limitations. Like, you say limitations, but really there aren't any because, when they say, like, you can't break the rules until you learn them? Like, the rules. You know how you can go beyond that and then provide to the viewer so that you feel, like, I feel like I'm there. When they were going through the license plates.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is just so cool. When we were at your brother's house, and remember inside there was a brick that had like 1872 or something on it. I immediately thought about Jay and all of the license plates and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit about that. People don't know what the heck license plates I'm talking about.
So one of the cool things that I like to do personally as a filmmaker is I like to discover.
Right.
Like I like to follow with the people. So like for instance, you mentioned about the license plates, and there was a moment in the So they had an old school refrigerator, freezer, refrigerator, whatever you call it, where it was like dug into the ground. I'm talking like
I
old
think
school.
like your old.
Like in PA.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in this dugout where they had, I guess, dug out and made the place so they could store all the food and stuff like that, they had used license plates
So cool.
to like hold up the concrete. So the license plates were still pressed into the concrete. You could see the old like 1930s license plates still in there. And he discovered this as he was looking in the fridge. So I'm filming him talking about, this is an old fridge. Then it's how they used to store their food. And then he's like, oh my goodness.
So
cool.
cool.
Look at this. And that's kind of the cool stuff that you wish
Yeah.
for, is that you go in there not with, hey, let's plan this out. It's like, let's just do your stuff. Let's get what we can get and we'll clean it up
And
later.
capture it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's kind of like what we were doing and stuff.
So cool. I can't
Yeah.
wait for you to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And
Yeah.
I like, even when you get to see where Jay works, like I would just be a kid in a candy shop looking at all of the stuff.
And he is a kid in the
Yeah.
candy shop.
I mean, it's not like
Yeah.
American Pickers. I don't know how to explain it. It's really authentic and organic the way he goes about, the discovery and the history pieces of it.
He's the one difference I will say between him and a lot of other things is a lot of people are material centric, where it's all
Yeah.
we found is wood. He's more concerned with the history
Yeah.
than what he's going to make out of the materials. It's
Right.
almost like for instance, that license plate
Oh,
wall.
yeah.
He mentioned about the deal with them, which he was going to rebuild something even better there
Yeah.
to replace it, to continue the history going there with other license plates, and then he was going to be given the license plates for that in return and so forth and so on.
Interesting.
So it's
Really
always
cool.
about not just stripping and moving and, hey, we got this away. It's kind of like, hey, what was the history
Leaving
here?
it. Mhm.
And also the people, which was really interesting in some of the other episodes we did.
Oh,
is
the
really
family. Yeah.
finding out about the people, like who's behind this place and why did this get like this and why did you collect all this stuff? Like, why is it here?
Yeah.
Like, who did this? And, that's really interesting too. And he's very concerned for that stuff, which I find really interesting, more so almost than the materials,
Yeah.
which are secondary to me.
It's like a whole
Yeah.
nother story.
Right.
It's funny when you
No, yeah.
when you find little pieces like first you have the aesthetic value of the license plate, right? And
Yes.
you think, and then you'll find that there's people that like them for all different. Like you can go down a rabbit hole with license plate
Yes.
people. Like some
Yeah.
people, actually, they used to build license plates in prisons.
Yes.
A lot of the
Yep.
prisoners built them. So people like to, for good or bad reasons, collect them. It'd be like a social, like kind of situation to
Yeah,
it. And then there's other people that are just into a certain state. There's there's a certain combo of numbers and I mean it's a deep world.
Yes.
Just license plate collecting.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
had a value. Like
Yeah.
he knew.
Yeah.
He knew right away. He was like, "Oh,
And
that's
they
worth
had
this,
them.
and that's what."
because
So it's
you could
interesting.
see the
So
year.
It makes
was
sense.
just so cool.
Yeah.
But the viewer gets to experience that discovery as well, because we
Yeah.
know it's not reality TV scripted fake.
Right.
That you were there literally with the camera on, and you guys were going through it. And also when they were fixing the motor, I can't remember. I think it was an open vehicle when they.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't even want to say what it is, but it's like
Yeah.
a 1930s Ford, or I
Yeah.
forget which car it was.
So cool.
Yeah, and they
They're like
that was
tinkers, yeah.
that was also
Yes,
not
yes.
planned, and that was what was interesting. Like I was there to shoot in the workshop, and while that he's like, "Hey Jody, go outside and just try that." What they did was they got I don't remember what the part was, but it was a part from an old tractor that they put in the 1930s car to see carburetor or something to see if it would
I
work.
think it was a carburetor.
And it worked. They didn't expect it to,
It's
and
so
it did.
cool.
So I'm in there filming him talking about something, and all of a sudden they hear the car go off in the background.
They're
And he's
like,
like, oh my God, and like, so there's moments like that which are really cool. And that was the other thing which is interesting was going there, and that's some of the things I think that filmmakers get a little concerned with sometimes, where I will give this advice is I am, and you know this, I am particularly not into planning.
I know.
And
I'm like,
Yeah,
what are you doing?
I hate planning. I like to go and let's figure it out while we get there. Obviously I don't want to be blind, but let's tell me as much as you can, and then we'll figure the
And we'll
rest
do
out, and we'll mold it. And that works really well with him because he's all over the place.
Yeah.
So and there's so much going on with different
Right.
people and stuff like that. It's just easier to do that than to say, hey, here's what we're gonna do. Because if I just focused on trying to do what we said, it would have never got done.
Right, yeah.
I originally thought that we were going there to shoot a piece of furniture that was going to get finished.
Yeah.
Like we were going to, find something, finish it, and shoot it, and that was not the case when I got
That's
there.
cool.
But it worked out better, which was kind of cool. So it's good to be open to that kind of stuff also.
What I also love is the way that you edited it. The editor's right here. I love that I see it being ready. It's ready for TV. Like you have the beginning, the middle, and the end, but also you have the picking up with, what happened previously. And I just love that it's ready. Like a network just needs to take it and plug it in. All
Yeah.
of the things are there because the way you go, close it out to be ready to be picked up with another episode, I really like that.
Yeah, I would say that Jay's really hit the mark on what's in right now between the Joanna Gaines stuff and all that kind of stuff, and the fixing and the reclaiming and the pickers and all that kind of stuff. He's right in the middle of that whole realm.
Yeah,
He's
but
amazing
it's like,
at what he
it
does.
feels different.
It is,
Yeah.
and that's what's kind of cool about it. It's like to me, it's like an evolution, and
Yeah.
that's kind of like it's like the next step. And he's tying it to the history, to people, and to a specific community, which
Yeah.
I really liked.
Me too.
So that's kind of like what's interesting because
Cool.
you could tell that there's a passion and a discovery to this area, which I didn't. I'm in the PA. It's a big place. I mean, it's
Yeah.
nice, whatever. But I didn't know half the stuff that as he's
The
telling
history,
me.
yeah.
And you know how big PA is too. So like, and he's into Amish country. He's got friends there, and he was raised in a very eccentric kind of environment because he was adopted and all this other stuff,
Oh,
and
cool.
in PA, and he's got an amazing story. And that kind of falls out because he's very open and good with anybody. Doesn't matter where you bring him, he's
Yeah.
pretty much good to go, and he'll have a good conversation and stuff. But I was like, when you watch the license plate episode, I mean, you've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, he was literally just driving
I
by that
know.
road. Like,
And
how do you
and
see
stop.
something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't. Like, how do you even notice that?
Yeah, because it was inside, and you
Yeah.
could see the faint a little bit on the
know?
outside. It's really
But
cool.
that's kind of what's cool about someone who has a passion for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, I mean, and there's like stuff that would go on. We were actually driving this one, and this isn't in any of the videos, but we were driving once, and there was a bell at a church that got hit by lightning the day before, and he was like, out, discovering it. Traffic's like trying to pull around him and stuff, and he's like, "Yo, look at this! It's amazing! Like, oh my god,
So was
cool.
what did the bell have
It was
a mark
like,
on it?
yeah, it was like seared, and it was like
The day before.
It
Or whatever.
Like
whatever
right
it was,
before
it
they
had
were
just
shooting.
happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was crazy, and
Yeah.
it was some old. It looked like a Liberty bell. It was like an old church
Wow.
bell, and it was. I had never seen a
and
bell
like-
that got struck before. It was pretty interesting, but
Yeah.
again, something that like none of us saw it.
Yeah.
And he just like, oh my god, look at this thing! Like, what are you talking about?
Anywhere's-
yeah,
He's just seeing
Farmer
things that
Jim.
All
others
that
just
stuff.
drive
Yeah.
right by.
Constantly. That's his
Yeah.
job, basically.
Okay.
To peripheral scan everything
love
and see
that.
what's available. Yeah.
That's so
So
cool.
it's cool.
So it seemed like that your style of directing, editing, goes well with this
good match.
gentleman, right?
Totally,
Because
yeah.
you're both just going on the seat of your pants,
Yes.
just whatever the day throws at you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So it just plays into each other really well.
But we do the same thing for Dream Baby.
Yes, we do.
We get ready for whatever the day is going to throw
Yeah.
at us.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
We love Dream Baby.
Yes.
So Pete, let's talk a little bit about your background.
Mhm.
So tell me more about when you went to Brookdale Community College and it was the best times of your life.
Oh, Brookdale. No, actually, Brookdale was a pretty good experience. So I had grown up in Manalapan, and I had graduated high school a year early because I moved here from Brooklyn when I was a little young. And then I went to Maryland and sold my wild oats at the University of Maryland for a couple of years. Went a little, and it was good, but then I got really sick, and I had Crohn's disease, and I wound up going through that whole thing, and so I needed to be home. So I wound up going to Brookdale, not really by choice, but I had to go there, where I met
But
Lauren.
it would have been your choice.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I will say this, which was kind of interesting, coming from a prestigious school and coming to a smaller school, you would expect a less environment, and that really wasn't the case. It was kind of actually, for me, as we were talking about a good match, it was a much better
Yeah.
match for me. I was much more able to learn where I was a people person and able to, meet people that I could connect with rather than, you're in a class with 500 people
Yeah.
and then,
Ugh.
a discussion, as they would call it, with like 30 people and someone who, most likely didn't speak, anything you could understand.
Or know your name.
Yeah,
You're like a
exactly.
student
Yeah.
ID instead of a
Yeah.
name.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was a good experience there, and I took that when I left. And I went to the School of Visual Arts, and when I got done with Brookdale, the other interesting thing was because of that, I was done with all my courses. So when I went to School of Visual Arts, I could just concentrate on film. I didn't really need
Cool.
to worry about understudy classes or any of that stuff. I had I had my whatever the heck it was. But
Yeah.
what is it? It's not bachelor's. What is the degree?
Oh,
Some-
associates, and then you
degree,
went on. Yeah. So for all you kids listening out there,
Yeah.
or even adults that want to restart,
Save your
go
money.
to brookdalecc.edu, because
Yeah.
why spend all that money at a larger institution
Yeah.
when you're learning online anyway?
unless
and
unless you want to party.
well, at
Right.
Brookdale, so one of our parents that send their kids to Brookdale, Siobhan Fallon Hogan, it's $4,000 for one class at Virginia Tech or West Virginia, whatever that's called, and it's only about $695 or so for the same class at Brookdale that transfers over. So all of the parents and everyone in the entire universe
Is that per
listening,
credit or
go to
class?
brookdalecc.edu. So, well, that was
Six-
that in particular one was $4,000 for the class,
Okay.
and then the same one.
Interesting.
So go to brookdalecc.edu for more information because I don't memorize all that stuff. But
Full disclosure,
so-
my oldest boy goes to Brookdale,
yes, and I'm
So-
hoping the youngest will
and
go
he
too.
loves it. You know, he's especially now in this new environment. He's living actually in Colorado and
In Aspen,
Oh wow.
living life and
that's
doing
awesome.
Brookdale.
going to Brookdale
Yeah.
online, and you know he's doing. It's actually interesting. This online school thing is actually, you know, he goes to school, he works, and he hangs out, and it's very. There's actually a lot more structure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like, you know, I mean, a lot of my
And
buddies went
boxing.
upstate, you know, to rugby houses and Cortland and, you know,
Yeah.
and it was just an animal house, you know, and now these kids get to really zone in on the studies, you know, if they want. You know what I
That's
mean?
the trick,
Some
yeah,
of them
if
use
they
it.
want.
Yeah,
as an
it
excuse. They
depends
just,
on the kid.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
recreate it here,
Yeah.
but yeah, anyway.
Yeah, and then I have to also add in that Pete has taught some of our campers at Brookdale. That
Oh,
was
that's
a
my
great
favorite, yeah.
experience.
Oh, tell me about
Yeah,
that.
the little kids.
Oh, well, I have a background with kids. My family used to own day camps, so I've been working with kids since I was young. Always, you know, I love kids. I always did. So I always wanted to. When I was younger, I kind of wanted to open up a film school for kids, like to kind of teach them how to use stuff. But now, kind of it developed on its own with phones and everything else anyway.
Yeah.
But that's basically what we did. Is we took phones and iPads and we taught kids how to make movies with using the iPad trailer. They have a little trailer
Oh,
app
yeah,
for
the
the
iMovie
iMovie,
thing?
the iMovie
Yeah.
trailer app.
Cool.
It's really
and
cool.
we would teach the kids like how to write something, how to plan it out, how to act in it and stuff, and do that through the summer. And then what I would do is we would film the one video that we would do, and then I would film behind the scenes of the making of, and kind of make that too. So
really
the kids
cool.
would get that, and it was a cool
And
program.
The kids
Yeah.
tied you to the table.
They did. Yeah.
Yeah.
They wrote the
Yeah,
script.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's so cool. But I love that we have that. No matter what age you are, Brookdale has something for everyone.
Yeah.
And then you also have a rap video.
Yes.
What you see that is playing Saturday, March 27th, 5:15 to 7:30 p.m. at the Asbury Hotel.
Yes.
So both Reclaimed Relics is at the Asbury Hotel, and then the next film block after is the rap video.
Yes.
So let's talk about that because again, just you are just your style
Mhm.
is outstanding. Like
Thanks.
I don't really want to ever edit again. I just want to give you everything to edit. Because I love when you add not an effect, but you know, the timing of everything and if it's going to be slow motion or sped up or ramping, you know, I just love that. Just everything here, edit everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
One of the things. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, and then, yeah. Well, I'm having the video play in my head right now, so I'm imagining the shots, but nobody else is. But so tell us about where you shot that and the experience of doing it.
So, pretty cool experience. So one of the rappers is Capone from Capone and Noriega, which was you know, I used to listen to him growing up, so that was kind of cool. And then the other guy is Locke, and he's a rapper from New Brunswick. And they have this thing that they did, which was pretty cool, is they got together to create this album to teach history to the youth. And that's kind of the point of the album. Is it's not really a. I don't want to say it's not a hip hop album because it is, but it's not like in a normal hip hop album. It's really focused on education. And so everything they talk about has some sort of educational kind of purpose to it, or teaching some sort of history
Science.
or lesson or along those lines, which is kind of cool. So the video, what you see, took place in two areas. The guy Locke is from New Brunswick, and Capone is from Queens. So we shot in both those areas, and basically it was a pretty simple concept. Is we're gonna go out into your area, we're gonna pick a spot, we're gonna shoot, and you know, with your people, and then we're gonna go and we'll bring you out here and you out there, and that was pretty much the
That's
idea.
cool.
But one of the cool things I got that I think I learned this off of YouTube, I swear, but it was like the best piece of advice I ever got that really helped me with music video artists. Is I used to think that you were hired as a music video director to go in and, you know, create this video. But then I realized that really what you're hired to do is to go in and feed off the artist,
Yeah.
and really just let them shine in a way. Like, you're not there to create what's going to be there. You're there to see what
Making
they
it.
have and then just amplify it,
Right.
you know, and that kind of thing. And that was really easy with these guys, obviously, which was kind of cool.
That's cool.
So they, you know, they both really into history. They're both, you know, characters in their own right and stuff like that. And they also were really interested in how I didn't fall down on my rollerblades when I was shooting. So that was the other cool
Yeah.
thing too, you know. So
Rollerblades. Yeah.
Oh,
I think we have
nice.
some pictures of that somewhere.
I definitely
We'll
do.
have to
yeah,
tag it on
yeah.
the thing. Yeah.
Definitely was circulating,
that's so
making
cool.
fun of me. Yeah.
See, So do you think that you find now, because of all the the mediums we have, there's,
Yeah, it's a lot.
YouTube and there's so much more information out there for new people trying to get into every field. We saw it happen last couple of weeks in the financial markets, where you have all these kids. Kids. They're adults. I mean, they're all
They're kids.
Communicating back and forth. So what this used to be, this old boys club of Wall Street, is now turned into a universal thing. Now, granted, the big hedge funds still have the upper hand, but it sure looks like the playing field is starting to get leveled out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's starting, right? And so I'm wondering if do you feel the same type of wave coming over the film industry, like
media?
where the big studios were almost like the hedge funds, and they had so much sway. Now, all of a sudden, it seems like all the information out there for young film students and editors and directors. Do you think that is same thing's going to happen? Is be like a little bit of transfer of power?
I think it's already happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's explosive.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story, which is interesting. I have a music video being released today, and it's the second one I did for this kid. Well, we didn't meet the timeline yet.
Where is it?
But this is the second one we did for this kid. And I look up this kid on YouTube. He's got a couple thousand followers, Instagram, a couple thousand followers, all this stuff. I go on his TikTok, 400,000 followers.
Unbelievable.
Oh, you told me, yeah.
That's what I
Blew
mean.
up, and that's what I'm saying. There's always a new medium or a new platform where
Yeah.
someone, as long as they pick up an audience, well, that's your new audience.
That's
now.
it.
Now you're the record company, you're the label,
Right.
you're in control of your audience, and that's how it's working now. So that's the
Like
middleman's
video.
kind of been taken out in a way.
I know.
Or at least it's changed. It's not the same
It's
job as
more.
it used to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just different because you're not necessarily navigating that relationship between the audience and the talent anymore, whereas you were before. Like you were the middleman in between that, but now they're connected and talking to each
Yeah,
other.
that's true.
You know?
And we'll go another. You mentioned that. We've talked about cryptocurrencies
Yes.
a few times now. We're
Crypto
very,
buddies.
very interesting space. Blockchain technology is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
It's changing a lot of people are calling it, the new form of finance. Finance 2.0, right? And it's going to change the way we do business, money, the idea, concept of money. Anyway,
Voting.
right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that people are talking about is the tokenization of assets. So
Okay.
meaning if somebody wants to, you have a movie, let's say you made your own movie,
Yeah.
and now they're already doing this with
I'm
art,
familiar
by the
with
way,
that.
right?
Yeah.
So what you do is you develop a token, say movie.
I think I bought one like that. There was one
right.
like that,
So
right?
you can actually, there's a way that through a cryptocurrency token you can tokenize your movie. Meaning so I'm going to sell slivers, like someone, you put it out to the market and people will say, okay, I want to buy $1,000 worth of his movie. I'm going to buy $1,000 worth of the token. Let's
Yes.
say make up a name of any movie.
Ooh, let's
correct.
make up a name.
Yeah,
Well, it goes even deeper than that because
Right.
they were
The
talking about
Golden
even tying
State.
it to on YouTube or even if there wasn't a YouTube, but you were just
Yeah.
able to, for instance, there was a
Archive
cryptocurrency
it?
out where it would be tied to the internet, where everything you put on the internet was tied to your
It's
identity.
called BAT.
Yes.
Oh.
Basic
yeah.
attention
Yes.
token. So,
So,
that and all these things are flipping it
Yeah.
back to the individual.
Right,
See, so
right.
in the old model is, Google, all the other the internet search engines. They get your information, right, for free.
Yes.
And they kick it out to the merchant who pays
Sell
them.
it.
Yes.
And then you get tracked and all this stuff, right? Well, now what Brave has done is tokenization, where you get on the internet, you choose if you want to look at ads or if you don't.
Yes.
If you want to look at ads, you get rewarded, basic attention token, BAT. You get rewarded because you're looking at the advertising.
Right.
Because
Right?
you want to. At
Yeah.
that
So
point, yeah.
it's what's it called? It's a decentralized browser.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So just getting back, because we're talking about film, right? But everything has a possibility to be decentralized.
Correct,
Where you
right.
don't have a film business anymore, or that's never going to
Or
happen.
like
But
big, yeah.
you can decentralize a movie.
It's almost like adding value to social media.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
To the
Whereas if
interactive
likes were equal to money.
cutting
And they're
edge.
doing
kind of
that
stuff.
too.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
decentralizing. There'll eventually be a decentralized version of Facebook, Twitter, and so, where you won't have there won't
Your
be a
information
controlling
stored.
entity.
Yeah.
Yes. Correct.
You know, and that's going to be a very interesting time, because you're going to have people won't be able to say what it's that whole subject now is very very sensitive, where people think that they have too much control. Well, in a decentralized platform, it's decentralized.
But one of the interesting things about that, though, is it will be decentralized, but they'll be able to know. So if something was written or tweeted by you,
right,
it will be tied to your identity. So it will no longer be like, oh, that my account was hacked,
right,
or I never said that, or that's not what my words were. Well, it's literally
on the blockchain.
It's there. Yeah, it's on the blockchain. You can't change it. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was the other value. And as a creator too, it's like, hey, I uploaded this video. It's like, oh, someone stole my content. Well, they can't now.
Right.
Now it's tied to you.
That's right.
And that's kind of cool.
It's actually a more responsible and accountable world, but with more freedom. It's kind of a weird dynamic.
Well, also more responsibility.
Right.
And I think that's what some people, don't like. It's almost like oh, I don't want the banks, until it's like, well, you lost all your money and now you can't get into your account.
Right.
There's nothing you could do, and you're like, I want a bank now. Now I want now I want someone to call. But it does give you a little more responsibility. But at the same token, with that responsibility comes freedom, and that's kind of the interesting, which I like.
Yeah.
And I like also
I'm sorry,
that like even the issues you've had with YouTube and whatnot, how you found Sprout and the other platforms that you're using, like even like that. I love that you keep
I'm
finding
not familiar with
Sprout.
It was not YouTube. I don't want to give YouTube a bad name. I actually like the way YouTube handles their stuff.
Was the music.
It was Vimeo.
Oh, Vimeo. Sorry.
Vimeo, and I will blast them online.
Let's
I could
blast
care
them.
less.
Vimeo,
they
what's
annoy
up?
me.
You're supposed to be all about the filmmakers. That's what we were told.
Vimeo was the
at
first
Muse Awards.
paid YouTube, right?
Yeah.
And you were paying for this, and then all of a
do.
sudden, I guess they got pressure from the music industry, and they decided to make this copyright algorithm, on your stuff. So I had wedding videos up there.
Yeah.
Where a DJ this was like a live view of the wedding.
So
it's dance floor, so you hear the music in the background, and they flagged 3 of my videos immediately for copyright violations in the same day and shut down my account, because as soon as you get 3 flags, it automatically shuts down the account. Now, not only that, there was no hey to respond or anything like that. It was immediately and YouTube will identify, hey, we found this music and such or whatever.
Right.
Vimeo was just like, hey, your account's been flagged. Do you want to fight it? And it's like, for what? This isn't. There's no music in this. What's it been flagged to? Oh, it's live stuff. Is that well? Technically, that's kind of legal. Is it illegal? And now it gets into that gray area, and all that stuff. So
but they're changing the rules of the game after the whistle blows.
Exactly. So after that, I had to find a platform where I didn't have to worry about that. And Sprout, I like for more than those reasons. They have a lot of good stuff on there.
Even for YouTube, for me, when I have, we pay for the music, we download it. It's not copyrighted music, but it will still say, hey, whatever. But it's like, you don't even know I paid for that music. I have the license to use it. So YouTube is a little weird too.
YouTube's weird, but it's getting better. So I use Epidemic now. Epidemic, and I'll plug them too because they're really good for that music.
Epidemic.
But they have a clearing thing now. So now when a client gets a video done, I can send them a link where they can clear the music themselves on their YouTube account. So in other words, YouTube will clear. So I actually had it happen with the neurology center. I just did a video for a neurology center, and they hit me up and they were like, "Can you change the music? It's not going." And I said, "No, I'll just clear it. Give me it. It must be a thing." And then I just put the link in and it cleared, and right away, they were good.
Oh,
so
that's good.
Dumb it down for me.
Basically, you're telling them that on this link, I'm using music that I do have the rights for.
Yeah.
And it automatically tells YouTube, and YouTube takes away the copyright.
Okay,
like we have subscriptions. Like I have firstcom.com. You have
Epidemic
other ones and Storyblocks.
Storyblocks.
So we actually pay to use songs that they're not like whoever the artist is. Other people made them. So then you download them. You have the rights and licenses to use them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's a typical fee for downloading?
Well, what they're doing is subscription based now. So now you're paying per month. So Epidemic's actually got a great price. I forget what it is. Maybe like $20 or less than that a month. It's not nothing crazy.
For 3 years.
Use like a Rolling Stones or
no, it's not that. They have a library of music. It's not you're not gonna get Rolling Stones, but it's very good music. It's not bad.
You can find something similar if you wanted to with that vibe.
But the thing is, you don't actually want like Rolling Stones, like I'm not making a feature film usually. So what you want is music that's like kind of backgroundish in a way a lot of times, or sound effects,
vocals.
and they have all that stuff on YouTube and things like that.
To move the story along.
Yeah, like when you're watching a YouTube video, you hear stuff in the background.
Yeah,
like a lot of stuff like that.
When I'm downstairs editing and I'm listening to music, you're not even paying attention because it's just a beautiful song that's helping the whole story move. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But so that's a whole another layer, and
so it's not dentist music waiting room.
Unless you pick it.
Or
Unless we
elevator
pick it,
music.
unless we need that. Yeah, unless that's
Unless
what
you
we're
pick
looking for. But if it's motivational and all that. So yeah, wow, we just covered a lot. So what else?
I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, well, those are the two videos I have in there.
Yeah.
Totally different animals, I guess, in and of itself.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
how I like to do. But they're at the same token, they're kind of like I said before. It's just a discovery of people, and then figuring out what they're trying to say and helping them try to say it really, or tell that story, I guess, or whatever if you want. And that's what I like to do anyway. So.
Tell us about your experience. Go ahead.
No, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So you've been to the film festival a bunch of times.
The Garden State.
The Garden State
Who
Film
ha-
Festival.
who hasn't?
Tell us, as a filmmaker perspective, actually he's recorded a lot of B-roll a lot of the time, so he might be mad that he didn't get to enjoy some parts of it, but I know you did enjoy some parts. So tell us from the filmmaker perspective, because you have had films in the festival before, and like, what is the experience and how does it feel? Because I know some people go back and forth, like, our film festival is dead and this and that, but just, let's talk about what you think about festivals, even no matter what you think.
No problem.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
tell you. So festivals, to me, they
Yeah.
are what they are, especially nowadays. But there's the one interesting thing about a festival that I think that you do get at is you don't get that experience online.
Right.
And what I mean by that is to see an audience see your film.
Yep.
And the one thing about having a specific audience see and comment on your film, and then to see people in person and see that's an experience you really can't get anywhere else. That's the only thing. I mean, it's cool to put stuff on YouTube and get a lot of great feedback on it, and that's awesome. But I've been there. It's very different seeing your own film in an audience in a theater, and it's like it's nerve-wracking, but it's awesome.
But you feel it.
And you feel it, and then you also learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
This worked. Oh, this didn't work. I'm surprised that really did work. They laughed at that. That kind of stuff. So I think that's really important, and that's what you get out of a festival. So even if it's not the same purpose as it used to be, where hey, I'm going to get discovered and my film's going to get sold and be on play all over the world, you still are getting the experience of, hey, how does an audience react to what I'm putting out in that setting? And I think that's invaluable. And locally, if you can do that, you should take advantage of that. So
Awesome.
luckily, we have that in Jersey.
I know.
Yeah.
You're so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Dear diary. They're so lucky. And then, so for the Garden State Film Festival, the in-person events, we always have a Q&A after the entire film block. We do a filmmaker talk back. But this year, Pete, and we're going to ask you to do the same, we are asking our filmmakers to set up Facebook Live Q&A sessions, along with these podcasts that we're doing here and the Garden State Film Festival. We're also having interviews, because normally on the Friday night we have GSFF TV, we have 1,600 people in the Paramount Theater and the Convention Hall.
Pizza.
So, and pizza?
Oh,
And
we should-
pizza.
You didn't say pizza. That's important.
And we also, so we're going to be bringing that interactive feeling to our audience before the festival and the whole time, even during and after. So we're looking to the film festivals to go on Facebook, create an event, Facebook Live, so that our audience members from all over the world can connect to kind of still feel that as if they're in person. I know that the world is different now and we're doing everything virtually, but we still want to bring over the audience and the filmmakers so that they can ask the questions and figure out what's going on.
Well, luckily, I have an excellent person at Edit Seller who I work with who can help me figure that out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So that'll work
definitely.
out perfect.
Definitely. So yeah, tell us
know,
about
I've heard
Edit
of her.
Seller.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
good.
I think she's great. Tell us more about Edit Seller. So as an entrepreneur, went to Brookdale, went to film school, do you want to go into a little, I know that your background, but do you want to dabble quickly about what you started out doing in mortgages and stuff, and then we're like,
Sure.
F that, I love my life, I'm going to live it?
Yeah, so I went to school for business, and then I got sick, and I was like, man, I should live my life for myself. I always wanted to be a filmmaker. It's funny, my father actually, you would think was the opposite, but he actually, when I was on my way to University of Maryland, was like, why aren't you going to film school? And I was like, I'm going to become rich in business, and then I'll use my money to make my own film instead of being this broke, artist and credit card debt. So instead, I went out, and then I wound up going to film school, and then I got out of film school, and there was a kind of remember I told you my family owned day camp, so they had gotten rid of the day camp. So long story short, I had to now get I had to pay for everything. I had a job and all this stuff. And when you come out of film school, there's really no jobs for anybody. So it's kind of, you had to figure it out on my own. I had a friend that owned a mortgage company and was like, man, you can make this money and just do the films on the side. So I started doing that, and I did all right in that for a little bit, and then that all crashed, and I wound up in credit card debt as a filmmaker with no films and no experience. So it was kind of stupid if you really think about it in the long run. But the one thing I was like, hey, life's trying to tell you something. You might as well just stick to your guns. So at that point, I was like, I don't care what happens. I'm just going to keep down this path and see what goes on. So at my mortgage company, I had rented out space to a graphic designer who introduced me to how video was, this was like 2008, how video was really becoming kind of bigger on the web for businesses and stuff. So we kind of merged to create our own company. And then when we wound up splitting in 2012 was when I started Edit Seller. And with Dream Baby was one of my big clients there, obviously. And
Hi,
then,
Carolyn.
Yes. Love Carolyn. And then from there, I was able to, because of that steady business, I was able to build up the other stuff that I do. And that's how we got to where we are now.
So cool. So if you had a couple of recommendations to newer filmmakers about equipment, they think they have to buy the newest camera, this and that, what kind of little pieces would you tell them? Little pieces.
I don't
little
know.
Nuggets of knowledge.
I think those days are done. I think that, you can make a good thing with your iPhone these
Yeah.
days. I think, one of the best, I guess, things I ever learned was someone asked, I forget where I saw this, but someone asked, what are the most significant films you've ever seen in your life? And they didn't mean movies. They meant literally a piece of video that's like scarred in your memory. Like, what's the most significant footage you've ever seen in your life? And like JFK is like number one pretty much on the majority of people's list, right? And they said, was that shot in HD?
No.
And why is it so impactful? And it's because it's the story. It's what happened that's impactful, not necessarily, an HD film. It doesn't need to be that, to be impactful. So
I have the newspaper from when that happened.
Yeah. I went to Dallas, and I wasn't even alive at that time. And when I went to Dallas, I went over that grass, and it was still like, wow.
Me
I'm in
too.
the grass, oh my goodness.
I stood behind the fence.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty, and it just tells you that it doesn't really matter the type of film. It's what's behind
what
it
is,
and what it is.
Okay.
And that's what really matters. So it's the story. It's always the same stuff. It's the story that really matters the most. And any way you can tell that, and that people can hear and see what you're doing, that's all that matters.
Cool.
I think that's the most important thing. I think the biggest mistake most filmmakers make, and everybody knows this, is you don't do it. You think about it, and you come up with reasons why you can't do it instead of just doing it. So,
and also,
like, go to fail. That's my thing. I'm good at that. Make sure you fail.
Oh my gosh. But also, so many filmmakers, I don't know why, they think they have to make a feature. Please just stop that. Please just make it a short. Is that still a thing? Yeah, they're making features, but really, it should just be a short. It's like, it drives me absolutely bonkers because
I find that surprising because with YouTube and with Netflix series and stuff, I feel like because when we kind of came up, 90 minutes was like you had to have it at like that kind of length because otherwise where was it going to go?
Right.
But now there's just so many different, like there's series, there's this, there's that,
It's painful when you make a feature that shouldn't be a feature. It should be a short. And sometimes, I don't know if I've said that. I might say that to filmmakers, but it's the truth. Like, you don't... And when you think about scheduling for a film festival and also the entire world's brain capacity is much less. I mean, if let's say like Rush, like a feature like Rushed, that's completely different. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's all cohesive. But if you're just trying to like fart out a feature because you think I should make a feature, you really need to have really good people that you work with to watch it and give you honest feedback. Like, it's just, I just can't take it.
Yeah, I think you just shouldn't. I think your number one goal should be to tell the most concise best story.
And don't worry about the runtime.
Don't worry about the time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So awesome. Okay, and with that, so high five. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to have your films in the Garden State Film Festival once again. The film festival kicks off Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 at the Cranford Theater in Cranford, New Jersey. By the way, Brian, did you know that the Garden State Film Festival was the first and only festival in 2020 to execute?
I know,
that's fake Mike.
Yes, I did.
So, not only the first, but the first and the only ones in the whole wide world to not postpone and cancel.
In 2021, what are we going to do?
So I guess we're crazy because we have extended the festival to 6 days, and so we're the 23rd to the 28th. So everyone might be confused. What are we? We're a hybrid event. What does that mean? We have 4 in-person venues: the Asbury Lanes, the Asbury Hotel, the Berkeley Kingsley Ballroom, and the Berkeley Johnny and June Room. And what that means is, obviously, there's a pandemic. It's COVID-19. So there's limited seating allowed per each venue. So when you go to buy tickets, they're not available yet because it's very specific with the seating and everything. All of that is going to be available on our website. I secretly have the schedule in my hand. Nobody has this yet, really. So everybody is chomping at the bit. They want to know when their films are screening. As soon as we have this ready to go, we're going to send it to you. But your films are playing Saturday, 2:45 to 4:45, Reclaimed Relics. 5:15 to 7:30, What You See kicks off the next film block. And at the end of every film block, there's a Q&A with all the filmmakers. Again, for the virtual world, the Jetson world, we're asking all the filmmakers to make Facebook talkback sessions, having the event, make us a co-host, and we'll promote it. So with that, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with Pete.
Thank you very much. Does everybody know you were recognized for all the work that the Garden State Festival did last year?
What do you mean? The awards?
Well, I know a bunch of other festivals reached out to you guys and stuff. For the way you handled everything online.
Tribeca, a whole bunch of other festivals reached out to us, who we put the non in the nonprofit. We're an arts nonprofit, and so I'm not surprised that we did it. I'm surprised nobody else in the world did it, but. We have a wonderful team: Kristen Dorado, Diane Raber, the founder, Heather Britton-O'Scanlan, our vice chair, all of our board members. I don't have all their names in front of me. Sage, Tina, everybody that helps us. Ben, we can't do what we do without you, and our filmmakers. Even in 2020, we had 11 days to pivot.
That's right.
We built the platform, executed it, everything.
Out of your house.
Yeah, it really was out of our house.
It was amazing.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we had all the computers, but the main thing is we keep security in mind. We understand that these are your babies. Your films are your babies, and you don't want anything to happen. So we have super high level of security to make sure, even in 2020 when we only had 11 days to build it, especially now for 2021, we have higher security levels to ensure that your baby is your baby. So for more information, go to gsff.org. You can reach out to me any way you want to on Facebook, Instagram, or lauren@gsff.org is my email address. And then we'll see you in March in Asbury Park and all around New Jersey.
See you in March.
Peace out.
See you in
Thanks.
March.